Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week we talk about how to love ourselves, others, and a higher nature, how to improve our career, finances, relationships, health, and spirituality. And today we have a very special guest, a very interesting and fascinating guest named Jamie Ray, who is a transformational life and relationship coach. He's an award-winning screenwriter, filmmaker, and comedian. He combines a deeply somatic and energetic approach to help move clients to deeper levels of integration and release inside the body. His goal is to help clients unlock their power, claim their voice, and connect deeply to their greatest soul potential. Welcome, Jamie, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Avila. I really am excited to be here. I appreciate it.
By the way, it's Avila. It's the same pronunciation.
Avila.
And I had to get your name was Ray.
Avila.
Yeah, your name was Ray, so I had to get that down. So we got that.
I didn't ask you about your name. I feel bad now.
Oh, not a problem. Okay, no problem. Now, one thing you talk about is you say deeply somatic and energetic work. I know you're a coach, personal coach. So what does that mean, deeply somatic and energetic?
Yeah, so I basically feel like they're, I guess kind of step one, this is just, I guess, my opinion, but step one in kind of the awakening transformation process is just first like figuring out like why we are the way, why we are the way we are, trying to figure out what our patterns are. And so I think kind of step one, and this is something that I learned through my own like awakening process and working with tons of clients, but it's just very kind of intellectual at first. Yes. It's like we need to understand like, okay, I am this way. And so it kind of brings context. But in order to actually integrate and actually be able to create true transformation, I really think it's more cellular, that we have to be able to actually integrate it into the body. Right. So it's kind of this process where, I like to be able to speak to the body to kind of know what's happening in the body. So it's kind of this body first kind of way of transformation and just allowing the body to kind of dictate. And so I feel the somatic approach allows you to kind of integrate the things that you're beginning to understand intellectually. And so it's just kind of the integration process.
Yeah, there's a psychologist, Van der Kolk, who talks about trauma imprints in the body.
Yes.
And the fact that, for example, things like yoga, and obviously I've done martial arts. We incorporate some of that in our practice, Aikido, soft martial arts, and Tai Chi. So certain movements can kind of connect you with the pain in the body and kind of release it. Now, one thing I like about you, first of all, Jamie, you're a great writer. I mean, I love writing, and you're very smooth, you're very detailed. And also you're very paradoxical in the way you approach your philosophy of love and life. And there's a term called paradoxical intention in psychology or therapy.
Right.
Viktor Frankl talks about it, in which you basically embrace what you fear, and that takes away the fear. So, for example, people who stutter a lot, Frankl or other therapists would say, become the best stutterer in the world. Stutter all you can, and that takes away the fear that you're going to stutter it. So you actually probably will stutter less. One of the paradoxes you have is interesting. Is you say embrace your inner monster. You talk about the unexpressed anger, maybe the dark side, and you haven't talked about the shadow. The shadow side that we have. Completely, that we see in others, but we deny in ourselves. It could be selfishness, greed, or even anger. So you talk about that in an interesting way. So tell us a little bit about that, embracing your inner monster.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I kind of see it as, this is just my own kind of spiritual philosophy, but, kind of take everything, even that's in the Bible or just kind of spiritual context with, we have this idea of a God. Maybe it's like, physical deity, or maybe it's energy, whatever we subscribe to, and take this idea of Satan. And I believe that we, all have a heaven and hell inside of us. We all have a God and we have a Satan. We could say Satan would be something like, deep shame or that rage or whatever it might be. And I really, really believe that we need to really know what our shadow and our dark side is if we want to be able to ascend and actually embody like true joy. And when it comes, in the context I think you're referring to with have you met your monster, it's basically that we all have anger and we all have rage and this explosiveness. And I feel we become really, really dangerous even when we don't know that monster, because we all have a monster. And then that monster will basically run on its own script and all of a sudden come out of nowhere. And it's like someone's like, holy cow, like I didn't know that I had that living inside of me.
Yes.
But if we kind of meet that monster, if we kind of go down to the depths, and that monster could look like deep shame, or it could look like, anger you have that your father left, like whatever it might be. Right. But the more we kind of unlock that door, and I kind of see it as like we get to know little mini monsters, we kind of work our way. And then that way we can actually hold the monster in our body in a safer capacity if we've actually met and unlocked that door. But if we haven't unlocked that door, then that's like scary.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden the resentment's going to build up. You might be in a relationship, you might be in like your peer friend circle, and then you might say all these curse words out of nowhere and just explode. Everyone's like, what just happened? And it's like, that's not even about you. That's about the fact my father left or something, but we haven't met that monster. So that's kind of the way I see it, is that we can create a lot of safety within ourselves, and then how we approach our interpersonal relationships. If we really understand that dark side, but it's not even our dark side, but just it could be anything, like, shadow within ourselves.
I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. And the idea that Jung talked about, the idea that we need to integrate it, but not be possessed by it.
Yes.
He says that if you're possessed by it, you would basically fall into your own trap and fall below your level. And I'm thinking of the great movie, I think you know what I'm talking about, the clown that puts on a happy face.
Oh, is it Us?
We're talking about, the Joker, let's say.
Oh, the Joker.
So the Joker. Well, I guess we're all little jokers, right? So
Yeah.
He said how we kind of like try to be polite and nice, but then inside there's anger, and if you deny it, it explodes. But in that case of Joaquin Phoenix, in the Joker, he actually became possessed, right? He became a killer. So what's the fine line between being possessed by the shadow and integrating the shadow?
Yeah, and I think we see that a lot. I mean, this is in a way a little bit of a generalization, so I don't want to go there too much, but sometimes you see it in spiritual communities who get very obsessed with shadow work. And I believe, you could call this a paradox, or you could just say, but I believe so much of just the work of healing and transformation is actually learning how to hold excitement, learning how to hold joy. Because for a lot of us, like being in joy, we hit that point where it's like, ooh, then it reminds our body of the imprint of our dad used to yell at us when we had too much joy. And so we only have a threshold we can go to. But I think, in terms of going into the shadow, I think a big thing, in terms of what you're talking about is living there, is we need to actually move the material. And if we don't move the material, this is just what I believe, that there's a chance that we could kind of live in that space, and it can almost become this fail-safe where it's, I'm just going to go process and do shadow work. And we just kind of end up living in the darkness because we don't really actually move the material all the way through our body.
What does that mean, move the material? Does that mean like do a curse word, or if you're angry, or express your anger? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it could be anything. It could be doing yoga. It could be doing breath work, which I found really, really huge. It could be doing body work, working with a body work practitioner. It could be just like yelling and screaming into your pillow. It could just mean the fact that the material even just moves on its own. But the material is not always going to move. But for me, just movement has always been really, really big. I have a really big body work. I do body work a few times a week because it just helps to kind of move stuck energy.
So if I'm pissed off, Jamie, should I do mixed martial arts and kick someone's behind, or what should I do?
Well, I'm curious, what your experience in mixed martial arts, because I've heard a lot of people talk about mixed martial arts as being a great way to even just have controlled anger.
Well, I've done Kempo karate and also Kung Fu. So those arts are kind of like harmonious in a sense. Aikido is basically holds and throws. So you basically connect with the person's energy, and then you lead them where you want them to go. So it's kind of like you're not creating conflict, you're resolving it, you're harmonizing.
That's amazing.
It's a very powerful idea.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is I find interesting in your material, he says that nice guys can be scary. Now, Reggie, our producer, is a very nice guy. But, like always saying thank you, polite, be said that can hide some inner anger. Is that bad?
Yeah.
What if you're a wonderfully happy guy? Is that possible to be that, or a woman? Is that possible, or are they hiding something inside?
Yeah, I think people can totally be wonderful and happy, but I also have this philosophy, and again, it's not everyone, because some people just do have sunny dispositions, but a lot of the time, the happiest people are ones like, that are the most angry or have the most grief that they haven't expressed. But the reason why I say like nice guys, like I compare nice versus kind. Because nice, anyone can be nice. Like a serial killer, serial killers are actually like the nicest people. If you see them in movies, they're so nice and polite.
Right.
Whereas kind is very much just like, it's kind of this unwavering state. You're a kind person. It's very much embodied in your heart. Whereas like nice can be a mask. Anyone can be nice. Okay. And that's why someone I find who's overly nice is a little bit dangerous, because it feels like, overtly that they're kind of wearing a mask to some degree. Whereas kind is very much this idea where they can be firm and they can be boundaried, but very much in their heart, they have a deep compassion and love for people. And so it was this thing like nice guys are the most likely to be serial killers. And it's just because to me, it relates to very much this potential posturing. this posturing of something where you don't actually know what they're thinking and feeling.
Right,
and that's like the most dangerous thing. When you like the safest thing is when you can look at someone, whether it's a friend or a lover, and you know what they're feeling because they bring their needs and their emotions forward, whereas someone who doesn't bring it forward is super dangerous because you have no idea how they actually feel.
Exactly. So I'm thinking like maybe an Italian kind of family or Latin family, you know, they express and they yell, but then they love each other afterwards. They have that kind of personality. But the idea of keeping it within. So I'm thinking of, spirituality, something internal, like a wellspring of love that you said that flows outwardly, where niceness can be maybe an external, like you said, facade, right? A mask that people wear to try to impress people. Yeah. Now, the other thing that's interesting about what you talk about, and you work apparently with relationships a lot, male, female, or other kind of relationships. And you say the thing that healthy love is monsters on a leash. So where you can express, the anger, but without trying to hurt the person. In other words, maintain compassion and empathy, which can be a challenge because, they're saying you a jerk, you're this and that, and you can say the same, but then it can escalate. So how do you counsel couples that are angry and then, it can hurt each other's feelings to maintain this balance?
Completely. I was going to say that I sound super dark based off all this monster stuff that's coming from my Instagram. It's like he's possessed or something.
What I was going to say about that?
And the whole monster thing, I love that as a metaphor. But again, it brings to that idea like monsters on a leash, essentially means nonviolent communication. Like, can you communicate your needs, your truth to your partner in, a very, even if it's a divisive topic, particularly what we're seeing with like the vaccines and all that stuff right now, but can you communicate your needs when you're charged in a way that actually bridges more connections? So you're honoring yourself, you're speaking what's true for you, so you're not throwing more crap into the love pipe of your relationship and building resentments. You're actually communicating what's true, but it's in a way that actually opens up the floodgates for deeper intimacy. And so I really feel that comes from a place where it's not like attacking what they're doing, it's speaking the impact of what their behavior has on you. So it's okay, like this is how I feel, because you can't negotiate with someone's experience.
Exactly.
like how someone's interpreting what their emotional experience.
So I'm feeling angry right now, I'm feeling frustrated. That's okay to say that to your partner.
Totally.
Without accusing them of saying you're X, Y, Z, you're not attacking them per se.
And oftentimes that's the scapegoat, particularly if we're triggered or something, where we go, okay, you're doing this. And then it becomes this idea where it's like, okay, it's not me, it's you. So it's like when you approach, like you essentially extend an invitation when you talk about your experience. When you actually, you might get emotional, you might be really vulnerable, and your partner just all of a sudden, like I always say, like the relational hero is the first one to drop their sword. So you basically put your sword in the ground, you take off your armor, be like, this is how I feel. It's an intimate moment. And then all of a sudden they become unguarded. Now you have a great opportunity in your relationship. But of course we're going to get triggered. Like, of course we're going to have moments in a relationship where we're just like respond from this place. We're going to respond from our child self often. But then it becomes about how we repair and resolve that conflict and complete it and make amends. But it's basically the idea, how do you communicate what you want in a way that enhances further communication, but it's not attacking and antagonizing your partner, so it's more of a we solution than me versus you.
Now, Jimmy, you're very verbal and kind of like tied into feelings. So, I wrote a book called Love Types, a bestseller on Myers-Briggs and relationships compatibility.
I love Myers-Briggs.
You have the thinking versus feeling dimension. So the feeling male is 1/3 of the population. Are you a feeling or a thinking male, would you say?
Feeling for sure.
So you're in the minority as a male. So you're drawn to these kind of things, psychology. And the other thing, and you talk about anger. You said you may have had a problem with anger in the past, where you pissed off a lot. So you talk about microdosing, I guess, anger, or like letting it out a little bit at a time. If you're not used to doing that, let's say you're overly polite and you don't want to offend people and things like that. But then on the other hand, I mean, how much do you go to the other side? Because you could be at a restaurant and you could be a Gordon Ramsay. I hate this food; it's terrible. Do you do that? Are you rude, or how do you express your anger in a considerate way?
I definitely, I was the guy growing up who would be, say there was like someone lipping off my group of friends, I would verbally lip right off. And I still have that in me to this day. And I've gotten way better controlling. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I still have my moments where.
Okay, Jamie, you're moving down to LA and we have a lot of traffic. And you know the term road rage. Someone cut you off. What's your response today, Jamie?
Well, sorry, my earphone just fell out. Well, it becomes a great opportunity. And like when I talk about microdosing, essentially like the moment that I refer to is that moment where, say someone does something and it's like, ooh, like it just didn't sit quite right in your body. It's just like something like didn't feel quite right. So it's that little kind of jolt.
Okay.
And say it's just with your buddy or something. You know what I mean? He canceled last minute. He's been doing it a lot. So you kind of feel this little jolt that, so are you going to harbor it pushed under the rug, which is going to fill up resentment in the relationship? Or are you going to approach it directly in a way, again, what I kind of referred to where it becomes a we solution? This is how I'm feeling. Okay. I don't want to put you in the wrong. But when you can kind of tune in that small moment, that little jolt, then you're able to slowly, incrementally build a tolerance in your body to hold it. So when you're in road rage.
Okay. So give me that example because, I want to see you driving on the freeway. The guy cuts you off. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, I always think, first off, there's absolutely nothing. This is a moment that's going to pass immediately, right away. Wow. This person's like, what are we going to do? Am I going to finger him, yell out my window, and it's never going to be resolved? Okay. Basically knowing that this guy's going to leave. So it's having enough to hold even the future. What's going to happen is that he's going to drive down the line and it's going to ruin your day. There's nothing you can do. So it's basically becoming two charged egos in that moment where it's like, I wanted to get in front of you. And you see it a lot even when people are driving where you kind of are going past someone, it pisses them off and they start driving so fast and going ahead of you. And it's kind of like, what's kind of the point of that? That person was kind of triggered and activated.
Well, that's you today. You may have evolved, but years ago, were you different? Would you have cursed someone out? Would you have been angry?
Oh yeah, I would have called them every bad word under the book.
Yeah, some people even pull over and want to fight. I mean, unfortunately, people have been killed on the road, so it can be pretty crazy out here. Well,
there's lots of we just can build up a lot of things that we can regret when we activate from that place. Just think of it like when you're with your partner and you're activated and triggered and all of a sudden you say something that becomes hurtful to them or you threaten the relationship, you always feel like shit afterwards. You always feel like crap. You're like, I wish I hadn't have done that because that wasn't really what's true. So it's like, I find with anger, it's can you hold anger and stay connected to your heart? So essentially if you can move the rage, if you can move that and fill your heart till your heart's on fire, I mean, because anger is an activist emotion. Anyone who stands for something is in a form of healthy anger.
Yes, that's a good point. I like to say it feel the anger fully and even give it a color like red or something and experience the redness, but don't react to it.
Yeah.
Basically, you feel the fiery burning sensation and then you let it go. That's kind of a Zen or meditative approach to do it, which is not easy to do for some people. Because they get caught up in it. And the thing is, anger can give you a jolt of almost excitement, can give you a jolt of power temporarily. But then you do things that may hurt yourself and others, typically. So, I mean, it's an interesting challenge, to be able to master the anger.
Completely. Like anger kind of does become like this.
Right. It builds on each other.
You're kind of stacking, whereas the connection's down here. So you're getting further disconnected. You're getting further away from the truth. You're getting further away from the ultimate goal the more that you kind of act on those impulses.
Well, in the martial arts, we have the hara, which is 2 inches below your navel, kind of the center of your power, your chakra of balance and calmness. So moving away from that is when you get into trouble. Now, Jeremy, the other thing that's kind of cool, I mean, you got these cool catchphrases in your writing, and also these paradoxical concepts. Now, this is one I think is going to strike people very interesting. We get a lot of single folks out here. And the thing is, you said, single people prepare to die alone. And he said, imagine a cracked headstone where you're buried. The birds are crapping all over it, and they don't care about you. And that's the way you should think about yourself, which sounds like a very gloomy concept. But then you turn it around and you say, a lot of people, they expect a soulmate to kind of rescue them, right? They're waiting all their life to find that soulmate and then be happy. But you say be happy as you are now. Be worthwhile and of value as a single person. So you don't have to rely on the person, so you won't die alone. So tell us about that. That's a very interesting paradoxical concept you have there.
Yeah, I definitely like to have these concepts where at first someone's like, "Ooh, I don't like how that hits," but then you kind of explain it. They're like, "Okay, that makes it a bit more like I'm kind of onto it." Yes. But for any single people listening, definitely get your affairs in order and prepare to die alone is the starting point because I think that death is the birthplace of love. I think the only way we can actually know what love is if we know what death is intimately. And, I even like to look at this, you go back, it's like we all have a story. We all have a story that we're living.
Well, Jeremy, let me take you back a second. That's a beautiful phrase, by the way. Did you coin that or did you read that somewhere?
I mean, I didn't read it anywhere. I came up with it. Someone else might have
Okay,
said.
I like that.
Know.
So death is the birthplace of love. So what does that actually
Yeah.
mean? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it means that we have to dial these deaths. You could call it an ego death, coming more to an essence place, so we can actually open up to the true soul within ourselves, so that love can actually be real. Because a lot of times, like, people are loving, but they're loving from a story, right? So obviously, it's love. It's a form of love, but it would be more of like an inner child kind of imprint of love. Versus like a functional adult relationship, where we all have this identity we come into the world. We all have this identity of how we used to belong to the family of origin. How we learned to belong in school. We kind of, this is the way I can get my needs met. We kind of built this identity. But oftentimes that identity or that story, even if we have the most incredible parents, still does not have us in the place of the most enriched intimacy that we could have in our full capacity within ourselves. So the death becomes, how do we kill the story? How do we kill the story to learn what love is? So I feel like to learn what love is, we have to be so confused, and we have to unlearn everything we've ever learned about love to truly understand what it is. So it's the killing of that childhood story, which often means getting blended with our inner child, releasing a lot of trauma or emotional material that still is stuck in the past, so that we can come home to ourselves. So it's this process of dark nights of the soul, of ego deaths, of healing our relational karma, of basically being in this place where I'm so confused, I don't know what's happening. So you can find yourself in the truest sense, which is death. Because if you think about it, life is a series of deaths and rebirths. It's all duality. There's like, you sell a house, and there's this grief that comes along with it. You move it in the new house, it's the birth. So it's the duality of grief and excitement. So to know death intimately means the duality of grief and the excitement and joy of, and that essentially means coming home to yourself. So that's it's kind of a complex thing, but that's basically how I kind of approach my work with my clients, is particularly with male clients, is I want them to know death within themselves so intimately.
That's powerful. You have a very Eastern kind of approach, which I like. Kind of like if you see the Buddha on the road, you kill it, which is kind of the perception of what it is instead of the reality. And you seem very knowledgeable and educated. Do you have any kind of formal education, or is this all self-taught?
Yeah, so I mean, I was a psychology major, but at university I dropped out. I never finished my psychology major. And so, like, I'm a certified life coach, so I kind of learned how to coach through there. And then I've just been I've been self-studying about relationships for probably a decade. From like the biggest teacher being my own failures, my own relationships.
Well, you're very open about that. That's good. The authenticity.
Yeah, like. In a way, that might actually be another paradox, because not a lot of people want to talk about their failures and still be an authority in some regard. But the biggest teacher being just my own relationships, and then also reading books and learning from other teachers and things like that.
Now, you also talk about the idea of loneliness, and we at Love University, one of our goals is to help eradicate loneliness in the world. And loneliness we see as a disconnection from yourself, others, and a higher nature, whether you call that God or spirit. And you say that people can be in a relationship or even married and be lonely within, what we call the empty marriage. There's no sexual intimacy, there's no communication. And it's like dying alone, right? If you die because there's not really a love connection. Kind of reminds me of a married couple. They've been married many years, and they're always fighting, older couple. And he said to her, when you die, I'm going to put on your headstone, cold as always. And then she says, and when you die, I'm going to put on your headstone, stiff at last. So even beyond death, right? They're still fighting, right? They're still conflicting.
I love that.
But then you say that a happy couple are two people that were single and believed they would die alone, but then they decided they wouldn't because they met each other, and that you say is a happy love. So how does that work when two people individually come together like that?
And I don't think that's a one model fits all as well. I think there's people that they can meet someone at 21 and then kind of get into this work and cultivate this relationship even later, But just basically talking about, I think most people in the world, single or in relationships, are lonely to some degree, because I don't think the vast majority of the population are into doing a lot of inner or personal work. Like, I think it's increasing, but this idea of Loneliness, I basically see it as like loneliness is in direct proportion to the amount that you actually feel connected to your soul on an embodied level.
Exactly.
You know, and that could be, it's like the work you're doing, does it make you feel alive? Is the relationship you're in, does it truly turn you on in terms of your heart, soul, and you know, other ways as well. But and then also just might mean the quality of your you know, friends. Are they an aligned group of friends? Do they see you? Do they understand you? So I think the majority of the population is lonely.
Right. But you're saying that, you know, in the Eastern, they say, he who expects everything has nothing. He who expects nothing has everything. So you're saying, going that with the idea that, you know, I may die alone, but, you know, if I do find someone, that will be great as well, you know, to have soulmate and connect. But it's not based on my worth or identity. Another thing that's interesting here, again, another kind of a paradox, and you can use kind of salty language, but you say something like, give your partner permission to be an asshole at times. So you talk about asshole-ish behavior, which I guess a jerk or a, you know, obnoxious, whatever it is, versus a person who actually is a jerk, and they don't admit that and they don't apologize. So how do you do that? So you give them an opportunity to be a jerk at times, or an asshole, as you call it.
Yeah, well, like I think a true asshole like can never actually admit they're an asshole because they can't die that death. Because someone's an asshole because it's a posturing. It's a posturing out for himself. Because so again, it's like true soul is here and the true asshole is out here. And to admit they're an asshole requires dying. So that's a death. Like relationships are all about death, even in your partnership. Great relationships are all about your willingness to die. And so what I mean by that is, I mean that first off, we're going to get triggered. We're all human. We're going to hurt our partner. We're going to offend our partner. It's just going to happen. That's the only guarantee in a relationship. I'm going to piss you off and you're going to fucking hate me at times. That's like the only guarantee. The only guarantee is that you're going to hate the shit out of each other sometimes. But it's all about the repair and resolution. Because intimacy and conflict, right? It's like, okay, let's excavate this relationship. We're in a moment of adversity. We're in a moment of combat. Let's dive in. And so it's two people willing to die, where it's willingness to admit, okay, I was a piece of crap. You were a piece of crap. There's ownership on both sides. And they create resolution and repair. So they actually complete the, you know, I think the biggest thing with, you know, is conflict resolution is learning how to complete the conflict, learning how to be, okay, we are in, but so many people keep having the same arguments in relationships, the same conflicts, because they never actually resolve them. They never actually die those deaths to actually go and excavate the gold. So I think expect to resent your partner, but I think healthy, really great relationships are very successul at taking ownership for the resentment and using it as an opportunity to create greater intimacy.
Yeah, I like that. And the idea of, you know, we talk about loving without expectation or unconditional love, agape or batki or karuna, different philosophies. Conditional love is more like, if you do this, I'm going to leave, right? I hate you, you know, you're not worthy, you know. So you're saying that you're going to accept them as human and, you know, with flaws as they accept you. And still stay together, right? If it's unconditional, you want to work through that. But at the same time, you want to have a compatibility. I think you talk about, you know, soulful compatibility at a deep level. And the idea that sometimes you get involved with people that you call them shadow mates or wood mates, that the hurt or the pain brings you together. So you try to either save them or they try to save you, and that can be an issue, a problem. We had this guest on the show, Harville Hendricks, who's very well known for getting the love you want. He talks about Immaculate Therapy, where basically you pick a partner that is similar to the parent you had the most trouble with. So if you had a cold dad, you might pick a cold husband and try to resolve it through that person, which may or may not work, and it can be a challenge. So what do you think of that? Do people pick each other based on wounds and then try to resolve it? And what do you think of that aspect?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Harville Hendricks, and I've read a lot of his material. But yeah, like I feel, you know, in terms of the whole womb mates thing, where basically it's this idea, from my experience, where you have this connection that's so charged, but it's so completely ungrounded, so you remove from the self. And the way to combat that is to work with your own trauma. And so basically what I mean by like womb mates and people who can be really disposed to womb mates are people who essentially follow attraction blindly without any idea of what's really going on. So they don't know why. I think the most important thing is knowing why we're attracted to who, you know, like why are we attracted to these type of people, and really getting to the bottom of it. But if you don't work with any of your trauma, you're going to follow your trauma blindly. And And so basically what you're doing is you're essentially loving in the past, you're recreating the past. And obviously, even a lot of the Imago therapy, like when you find someone that does kind of fit that imprint, there oftentimes can be a lot more passion in the connection. And it's a lot of the times of who we're attracted to.
Right.
And so I think it's really important to unpack and work with, on a very integrated embodied level, a lot of our trauma. So actually a lot of that charge becomes removed. Right. And then now we're in a better place. It doesn't make us like completely removed from finding an unhealthy partner.
Right.
But what it essentially means is that we can find someone that can amplify us. And relationships are going to be this space where you recreate some dynamics from the past, and it becomes this beautiful, wonderful opportunity to heal. Yes. But if we're not conscious of that, then we're basically in this combative relationship. And if we haven't worked with any of our trauma, then we're essentially attracted to our trauma. And we want to remove enough of the trauma of our past so that we're not just like, wet or rock hard for our trauma. And we can actually find someone, this one is someone I'm really attracted to, but they're also someone that's really, really healthy for us.
Exactly. Now, Jimmy, you sound very deep and thoughtful, and this is serious stuff, but I know you're also a comedian. Now, can we laugh at ourselves? I mean, humor, they say, is a very healing thing. Is there any relationship humor or dating humor you can share with us? Do you do jokes at all or anything like that?
I'm not like a one-off. It's more kind of in the moment, kind of when I do that. But I think the biggest thing that I find, it's all a joke. Everything. I mean, everything's a cosmic joke.
In some way, you're a human being, and you're here for a short period of time, and then you're gone. So it's kind of a silly.
And the thing is, we're all idiots. None of us know really anything. And I think
for Reggie, the producer, he's pretty smart. But we'll see.
but basically, just the biggest thing I think of, that it's a cosmic joke, and with this spiritual stuff, it can get really, really dense. And so I like to throw in dick jokes. To basically mix it up. Like, if things get too serious, I'm like, it needs a really good dick joke. I even need it for myself. Because it gets to a point where it's like, like the imprint is too dense. Right. And I want to talk about buttholes. I love talking about buttholes.
Okay. Reggie, you're turning purple over here. Are you okay, Reggie? It's a PG audience, so we can't go too deep in that.
Sorry, my headphones keep falling out. But just, I like to mix it up.
Let me ask you this now. We're talking about love now. Happiness is the other topic. Now, you said that unhappiness or hitting rock bottom can be a way to learn happiness.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some things like you're a hypochondriac and a few other things. And I think you said you were crying to your therapist about a failed relationship. And you ask yourself, how can I be a relationship coach? But then you realize that your own pain can help heal others. So what's been the most rock bottom thing for you? What, where were you at the bottomest in life?
Yeah. Well, first off, I don't think happiness should be the goal. I think feeling more should be the goal. Feeling more pain, feeling more joy, feeling more excitement, just being more human, right? Because happiness, in a way, sure, we can improve our overall baseline, but it comes a fleeting state because, we're going to know pain intimately.
Yes.
And so I'm always like, let's just try and feel more. The biggest rock bottom moment, honestly, was these past 6 months that I just came out of.
Okay.
I've had many rock bottoms. This was a rock bottom in the sense of I experienced insane physical trauma because I have a bad back. So I was in the hospital a couple times in February. Wow. And like complete rock bottom. And so I had all this physical pain. But as I was going through the physical pain, it brought up all this ancestral trauma, this unconscious trauma that I didn't have memories from in my body. So I basically spent 6 months excavating generations worth of trauma from my ancestors all the way through my body. So it's basically like for 6 months purging.
That's interesting. But you told me you're also hypochondriac. I mean, was this real pain or did you imagine it and exaggerate it?
Yeah, so it was real pain, but also it was a lot to do with working with my nervous system at a deeper level because my body, my nervous system was interpreting things that there was a fear of death, and I'm a hypochondriac, the root of my anxiety, which is just this trauma that I had when I was younger, ultimately just fear for my safety. And so a lot of what I went through was having the thing you're most scared of happening, releasing so much charge from the past, and then creating a new sense of safety in myself so that I could actually ascend.
Wow, interesting. Now, you have some interesting philosophies or ideas about, success or happiness. You say, go for the middle ground, which is push towards success, but pull back to gratitude. So, some people work too hard, workaholics, but they don't appreciate, the sunsets or spending time with loved ones. And then the fear is that if I take it too easy, I'm not going to succeed. if I'm lazy or not motivated. So you say there's kind of a middle ground where you can work hard and, for your things, but then, you pull back and enjoy life. Kind of like you take a dog for a walk. The dog is smelling stuff and enjoying it. You want to get back to your appointments. So tell us about that. How do we find the middle ground between success and gratitude?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what I was referring to there was that, a lot of, people, particularly personal growth, it's like grind, hustle, got to have the next TED Talk. And
side hustles.
Yeah. So we're grinding and hustling, but in a way, the work really integrates in space. And so some people in the world, they might be grinding and hustling so much, but be disconnected from their soul. They might not be doing it while embodying and pursuing the sacred gift that they have. So they might be pursuing something that is not like a God-given talent. And so it's kind of this idea of our ability to be resilient within our systems, our ability to grind, hustle, have like real hard work ethic, but then live in a space of flow. So we're connected to source, we're connected to spirit. And so it's this idea where you can move between creating space, feeling your emotions, connecting to source, and being able to be resilient and hustle. Because if you aren't resilient and hustle, you never actually execute and bring anything to the world. You're basically living in a tree with a little leaf skirt saying, I'm so connected to God and source, but I never actually tangibly create anything three-dimensionally in the world because I don't have the hustle to do so. So it's this idea where connect to source. So get the inspiration from source, but the execution is your resilience, your ability to lean into resistance to adversity, and create something, when you don't want to, or sit at the computer when you're not feeling inspired. So it's kind of that meshing of the grinding and the hustle to execute and the inspiration drawing from source is kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I like that. Now, the Eastern approach, they would say you're capable of infinite work if you give the fruits of your labor to God or the higher nature. So in other words, you love your work. It's a gift. In Spanish, we use the word don, from don divino, the gift from God. In your case, is writing, other people will be teaching, mathematics, science, whatever your gift is, but you do it because you love it. And then as a result, you say, whatever comes from that, the accolades, the money, I give to the higher nature, the higher source. And I can be happy and I can work infinitely. I don't get burnt out as a result. You call it the process versus the result.
Totally.
So you go within the flow of that. That's a powerful concept. And you also talk about being passionate about your life. And some people, you said, they're so worried about having their shit together, as you say, that they live a shitty life, as opposed to having a life in progress that may not be perfect, but that's really what they want. So tell us about that part. So let's say I want to be a writer, but I'm not making any money out of it. My parents told me to be an accountant and have a 9-to-5 like all my other family members. What should I do, Jamie?
You need to embrace the suck. You need to embrace being bad. And I mean, for example, with the pursuit of being a writer, like you would know you're a writer, it's major delayed gratification because when you first write, you're going to suck, and they're going to be like, okay, there's no money in this, or everyone in the family is a medical doctor. Why do you want to be? And I come from a family. Everyone's like, optometrist, dentist, all those very traditional kind of occupations, and so it's not going to be this instant payoff. And so, but yeah, I was kind of referring that people are so obsessed, particularly like in their 20s when they're younger, of having their shit together, of appearing to have their shit together, but they don't actually really have their shit together. Because if we're not connected to our soul, if we're emotionally shut down, we don't actually have our shit together. We have the facade of having our shit together. We have our shit together. So I kind of look at it where you can actually have everything. You can make lots of money doing something you love. You can have an incredible relationship, incredible community, and you can have all those things, but it's kind of soul first. And to go soul first means that you need to look like you don't have your shit together for a period of time, because the only way you go soul first in life is through the excavation of trying different things, trial and error, of figuring out what you're good at. You can't get the God gift without living in the sludge for a long period of time.
Exactly. So the patience, or you say the space and gap between the realization of your dream. But sometimes it's hard for people. Let's say you are an artist and I'm selling it on the street. I'm living out of my car or whatever it is, or I'm having troubles financially. But you say, keep doing what you love to do until it comes to fruition. Is that your advice?
Yeah, just keep doing it. Like
and I work part time somewhere else. I mean, it gets a little money too.
Yeah, like having a meal ticket. That's actually what brought me into coaching was having a meal ticket because ultimately, I want to write movies and I want to write books, and that's what I want to do. So like I want to live in the creative, and my meal ticket was getting into my coaching practice.
You love that too, don't you? Or no?
I love that too, but the writing and creating would be an even deeper soul journey.
It's a true love. Okay.
Yeah, and so you basically, in my opinion, you need to it's basically like you need to create a marriage with whatever you're doing, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, this is it. Whether I got to have another job for 20 years,
right.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of the most famous writers didn't make it till their 40s. Exactly. You know what I mean? And so, because it takes that long to get good at something.
Exactly. That's good. By the way, Reggie, my producer, can you come here? I want you to help me out, Jamie.
Yeah.
I have here a wonderful young man who's going to join us here in a second. And I'm a little bit, I don't know, I guess frustrated because this guy hasn't had a real relationship in his life. He's a very shy guy.
Right.
And we have a bet actually where I would pay for his $100 date for him to take a nice lady out. And so far he hasn't quite made it yet. Now you had a nice one that was turned out to be friend zone again.
What's it called? Yeah, she was called just kind of like, I feel neutral about it. We went on like 3 dates and then, and she was just like, I don't know, like, I'm just not feeling it. So I was like, all right, whatever,
right.
you know?
So he's the best friend of all the ladies that have boyfriends and hoping that they'll leave them, but he doesn't, that never happens. So what's your advice to Reggie?
Reggie's your name?
Yeah, that's right.
What's, like, in your opinion, Reggie, like, what's the thing that you struggle with the most in your relationships to women in dating?
Well, I think it's just traditionally been like, well, like Dr. Avila said, I'm like naturally shy and just I'm really coming into my own, becoming more confident and like, because I get girls respond to the, they sense my lack of confidence in myself and that turns them off. And but now that I come a long way, I'm becoming more confident, more fulfilled, and I'm starting to see even just that. I've seen differences in the way women interact.
You didn't tell me that, Reggie. Love University is helping you.
Yeah,
okay, good. Okay.
Good 4 years.
So
Every time we get a guest on the show, we get advice, but something's still missing, right? You don't have the romantic date yet or relationship.
Right. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Jamie, what can we do to get him to jumpstart him?
Yeah, well, like obviously confidence is like a huge thing, and just no matter what it is just having the confidence obviously to be who we are, and like how are you going about like what's your process of filtering these women and actually like do you have kind of a criteria like how do you actually go on these dates with people like how do you actually like what's your selection process like?
My selection, like decide if I want to go out with a woman.
Yeah, like is there anything like that you really look for? Because I think so much of like dating is literally about getting aligned people in front of us, and I think a lot of times we can struggle in dating when we're going on these dates with people who are actually misaligned for us. So the thing is, who you are is going to be the absolute shit to a woman and lots of women in the world, and it's just about getting yourself in front of those women.
So he loves comic books, politics, technology. Should he be in front of those kind of ladies?
100%. Like one of the best things is spending as much time in the places that you're passionate and interested about, and literally turning up the volume on who you are. So confidence is not changing who you are. It's about turning up the volume on the parts of yourself that you're actually insecure about.
But should it be a nice guy or an a-hole? Like, some people say be the jerk and the woman that responds to the confident uber macho. But if he's too nice, I mean, he gets turned down because they don't respect his energy.
Be kind. Be just the ferocity to be you and be unapologetic in your expression of you. And that's what's going to turn a woman on is not that we have the six-pack abs or whatever, but we're unapologetic in the penetrative expression of who we are. And what that's going to do is that's naturally going to filter so many women. They're going to be like, who's this guy? And you want so many no's. You want women. You want to be the embodiment of you so that women run for the corners. Run for the corners. And then there's going to be a woman who's going to be running towards you and being like, oh my gosh, like you're everything that she's ever wanted. So it's just turning up the volume on your insecurities and everything that you hold shame about. The more you can turn up the volume on that, the more you're going to get in front of the women that are your type of girls.
So that's another paradox, Reggie. He's saying to be ferociously confident about who you really are, and you're a kind and good-hearted man, right? Intelligent. So that's pretty powerful. So instead of shrinking from who he is, which, like maybe a little intellectual, maybe a little nerdy, He's going to be the biggest nerd in the world, right? The most intellectual.
Be the biggest. Like, go down to Comic-Con, wear like the biggest, comic book.
Wear something on your head, right? Antennas or something.
Yeah.
Or something, right?
Right there, and like you're gonna meet your sweetheart doing, not necessarily doing that, but like something like that.
Right.
You're gonna be doing it in moments of authentic expression of yourself. And the thing is, you can't really screw up with the right person.
I like that.
That's true.
All right, so go out and meet your antenna lady this week.
course,
Right.
yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Jamie.
Comic-Con.
All right, so we got to give you a advice, success story, right, Jamie, later on.
I can't wait to hear back. How I mean, Comic-Con, I have no idea. I know it's in San Diego, but I don't know when that happens.
Now, speaking of Comic-Con, Jamie, what is your favorite superhero? Like, say someone that you would like to have a powers for, because you seem like a pretty erudite guy. You have a lot of knowledge. Who would you be your idea?
I really like. I'm not a big comic book guy, but I like Deadpool because he's got a foul mouth. I like Deadpool.
Okay, foul mouth.
Because he's got a dirty mouth.
And he's funny, right? He's a humorous guy.
He's humor and but he's humor and powerful, and so
yes, he's fearless, pretty much, right? At the same time.
He's fearless, yeah. So fearless with his mouth and his potty mouth. So
I like that.
Probably have to go with. And I also like Ryan Reynolds. So Deadpool.
Perfect. Well, Jim, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. You've been very refreshing, very intellectual, and also I can see that you care about people. You really have a love to help others, and also a deep passion to create and to write. And I can identify I'm a writer as well. Now, tell us a little more about where we can get your work. Do you have a website? What do you offer our listeners?
Yeah. So first off, thank you so much for having me on the show. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
It's been wonderful to talk to you. So people can find me. My website is jamienray.com. I'm regularly writing articles on there. So it's JAMIE, initial N as in Nicholas, REA.com. The place I'm the most active and listeners can find me is on my Instagram, which is like I'm posting on there basically every day, but it is at jamie.n.ray. Right there, I have links to applications for one-on-one coaching. This fall, I'm going to be coming out with a couple courses and a couple group program offers, but I haven't announced anything about that. So the best way would be to find my writing via my website, my Instagram. If anyone's intrigued, inspired, curious to learn more, they can shoot me kind of a DM on Instagram. Is probably the place I'm most readily active, and they can get a little more sense of all my paradoxes. Because I'm a confusing fellow.
You're the master of paradox. Okay, we'll have to. That's a title for you.
I really like that you pointed that out because I haven't had that. Fed back to me quite the way you have, and I appreciate it. I like it.
No problem. Very powerful. Now, Ray, I see it. How do you spell that? Because I think I have a different spelling of your last name.
Yeah, so last name is pronounced Ray, then it's REA. So the spelling's REA.
Okay, REA. Okay, so that's REA, and that's how it is in your website and everything.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you work? I know you mentioned you're moving down to the States and you're working on a book or something. You got some things going on.
Yeah. So I'm going down. I'm moving to Austin, and I'm the type of guy. I have so many, I'm just at the end of writing a movie right now, which is actually about spirituality. And then I'm just beginning to write a trilogy book series as well, which is about spirituality, love, relationships, and things. So there's all these things that I'm working on, as well as coming out with courses and different group program offerings. But
are you a Gemini or left-handed by any chance?
I'm Aquarius and I'm right-handed.
Okay, Aquarius. Okay, well, I can see the spiritual side of you.
Gemini, the sign of twins, right?
Yeah, the creative. I'm a Gemini, actually.
Oh, you're a Gemini.
Yeah. So usually the creative, spiritual people have some of that. So Jamie, I'd love to have you come down if you ever get down to LA or Orange, Southern California. Maybe we can do something together, a seminar, or we can do something as a talk.
Yeah, I actually might be coming because I'm probably driving down to Austin in October, so I might be down. So there's a chance I might go through LA in October. So maybe we can connect via email and kind of continue to stay in touch.
Yes, that'd be possible. So the advice is embrace your inner monster, prepare to die alone, but find love if it comes to you, and then embrace your true authenticity, I think, and your love within. Jamie, it's been a wonderful pleasure having you on the show. If anyone wants to ask any questions on today's show, you can reach us at 310-226-8090. LoveUniversity.love, LoveUniversityLove@gmail.com. So until next time, Jamie, keep the love and the happiness and the inner peace going. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Until next time. There's our interview with Jamie Ray, a fascinating guy. spiritual and relationship coach. Very earthy, very down to earth, spicy and saucy, but he had wonderful insights into how we can really basically love ourselves, love others, and love a higher nature. And the idea that be prepared in some ways for the worst, but accept the best the universe has to offer. And he gave us wonderful insights in that. So I think that's a good message for everyone today, is to realize that you have a lot to offer, to embrace your passion, love what you do, let the process flow despite the results, and eventually you will find the goals that you want to achieve, including love, relationships, financial, material success, and also spiritual success, which is the most important of all. If you want to be on the show, if you have a show question, if you want to comment on today's show or others, you can like us on Facebook at Love University Podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Love Letter U Podcast. You can subscribe to us on Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can reach us at 310-226-8090. Write to us at loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. And, of course, visit us at loveuniversity.love. So until next time, Love University students, go out there and have a powerful Love University week in which you love yourself, others, and a higher nature. This is Dr. Alex Avila. Put away your notebooks, your iPads, your iPhones. Until next time, Love University.